Hey everybody, this one is about the so-called subprime crisis was a scam. It was nothing more than orchestrating a coup of the corporation that's supposed to be the government. And I'm going to show it here right now. There's a book called Modern Money Mechanics. It's a 40-page document published by the Chicago Federal Reserve in the 60s. And this is the first page of it. And notice it says, talks about the Chicago Federal Reserve. It's written by this Dorothy M. Nichols in May 1961. There's page 2. And it talks about the money creation process takes place principally through transaction accounts. And there's the text of what I had highlighted there. And that's on page 2 of the document. And then this is on page 6. And it says, of course, they do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for credits to the borrower's transaction account. So when you sign that promissory note, you created the money. This is on page 6 of the document, and this is the text of what I had highlighted. Of course, they do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes in exchange for credits to the borrower's transaction accounts. Anyways, and it's interesting to note that they cannot loan money that they receive as deposits, because once they receive it as a deposit, it becomes their own property. And this is Title 12 United States Code, Section 83, General Prohibition. No national bank shall make any loan or discount on the security of the shares of its own capital stock. So it becomes, they cannot loan a depositor's money, okay? It's actually a felony. When anybody makes a deposit under the Uniform Commercial Code, it becomes the bank's property. It's an unsecured debt to the bank. That's why the CDOs, the so-called collateralized debt obligations, which is the subject of this video, are such a scam, because nothing was ever loaned. And they take priority over bank deposits, and now they're using it as an excuse to go bankrupt. Banks do not loan anything. There's no such thing as a bank loan in America or anywhere. When you sign the promissory note, you create the money. They deposit the promissory note into a transaction account, and based on that deposit, they cut a check. Tom Schaff wrote a book called Banker's Secrets. It lists 160 questions that you can ask a CPA and an officer of the bank in court to prove that they loaned nothing. This is Tiernan versus Jackson, 1831 court case, and it's talking about an unconditional promise to pay. If A receives money from B to pay C, it is money had and received for the use of the latter. In such a case, it is immaterial whether the promise to pay over be express or implied. It's a chose in action, okay? Anyways, it doesn't say that there, but it does in other cases. This is Crunk versus State Farm and Casualty. A cashier's check differs in that it's a bill of exchange drawn by the bank upon itself and is accepted by the act of issuance. A cashier's check is the primary obligation of the remitting bank. And then it kind of goes into some further explanation. An ordinary check is considered as merely a promise to pay, but a cashier's check is regarded substantially as money, which it represents. The gift of such a check is completed upon delivery of the check. And then it says, see also Scott versus Seaboard SEC Company, which quoted with approval extensively from Drinkall, and then quoted from Hathaway and Delaware County versus Delaware County as follows. that by reason of the peculiar character of cashier's checks and their general use in the commercial world, they were to be regarded substantially as the money which they represented, okay? And so a cashier's check is no different than a promissory note, is what they're saying. What is said to be an unconditional, this is a Canadian case, okay, and it expands on it further. What is said to be an unconditional promise to pay a certain sum of money is itself money. The words on the face of the paper money will pay to the bearer on demand cannot alter its character as money and turn it into a different document which calls for the payment of money. And that's the Supreme Court of Canada. Anyways, these are all admiralty cases, okay? Tiernan versus Jackson is over a shipment of tobacco. Crunk versus State Farm Fire and Casualty is over an insurance policy. And Bank of Canada versus Bank of Montreal, that's the Bankster Thieves. The Tiernan case talks about it being a chosen action. Well, what's a chosen action? This is the Tiernan case. They are either cases where there is an express promise to hold money subject to an order of the principal, subject to an order of the principal, or where or there was an implied promise to pay it over as was received to the use of the particular person in the case at bar. No such irresistible presumptions exist. And so a chose, it's French, okay? A thing whether tangible or intangible. Remember, that's civil law, okay, which is Roman. It's the same thing as Roman civil law, which is a subset of canon law. Anyways, a chosen action is a proprietary right in personam, such as a debt owed by another person, a share in a joint stock company, or a claim for damages in tort. The right to bring an action to recover a debt, money, or thing, personal property that one person owns but another person possesses, the owner being able to regain possession through a lawsuit, also termed a thing in action. And that's Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. So banks do not loan money. There are no bank loans. All bank loans are a fraud. All mortgages are a fraud. The so-called federal debt is a fraud. There is no government debt. All foreclosures are a fraud. The so-called subprime crisis was a fraud. See Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3. And now we have a little advertisement we're going to interlude here, announcing the subscription-based YouTube channel called Sovereignty International. The recommended cost of the subscription is currently at $1.99 a month, because it avoids the advertising only. Originally, when I was setting this up, I was going to have some exclusive material on the channel. But after thinking about it, the only power that the New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception. And my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit. And for that reason, there will be very little exclusive material on that channel. I mean, if I put it up, it's something that I want to tell everybody about it. Currently, I'm publishing 5 videos a week. That's not 3, that's 5. And so we'll see. As long as people keep sending me ideas on things to talk about, I'll definitely keep doing 5 a week. I might even increase it up to 7. After the stock market crashed in the 30s and the subsequent depression because the people were so tired of the banksters' corruption, Congress passed the Glass-Steagall Act, which prohibited the banksters from being involved in the stock market. And this is a confidential memo at the heart of the global financial crisis. And you notice the memo, it's got Timothy F. Geithner, Assistant Secretary of International Affairs, on the top there. It's got a memorandum for Deputy Secretary Summers, okay? And this is actually taken from Greg Palast's Vice website, vice.com, which is a UK website, and in August 23rd, 2013. Anyways, and it says down here, a little birdie dropped the endgame memo through my window. Its content was so explosive, so sick, and plain evil, I just couldn't believe it. The memo confirmed every conspiracy freak's fantasy that in the late 1990s, the top U.S. Treasury officials secretly conspired with a small cabal of banker big shots to rip apart financial regulation across the planet. And that's what's on that page. Okay, they've since taken this down, so I don't know where else you'll find this, but this is something that I got a hold of. And so here it is. Oh, and there's a bigger shot of the top part of it, and here's the bottom part. And I guess I could have waited to say it here, but the interesting thing is that it says the end game of the World Trade Organization financial services negotiations, I believe, and then it goes, or you to touch base with the CBOs of the major U.S. banking, been closely following the WTO financial services negotiations, one call the following firms individually, and these are all their personal phone numbers. That says to the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Lawrence Summons, from Assistant Deputy of Secretary of International Affairs, Timothy Geithner. I guess he got his quid pro quo because he became the Secretary of the Treasury. And so did Lawrence Summers. They both got their quid pro quos. They're thank you very much for doing your part. As we enter the end game of the World Trade Organization financial services negotiations, I believe it would be a good idea for you to touch bases with the CEOs. And this is Goldman Sachs, John Corzine. This is Merrill Lynch, David Kamansky. This is Bank of America, David Coulter. This is Citibank, John Reed. And Chase Manhattan, Walter Shipley. Now, all those numbers, he goes through and explains how he tried all those numbers, and they went directly to their personal secretaries. Of course, these numbers don't work anymore, but anyways. Palast explains that Geithner was telling his boss at the time. Summers tries to call at the time. Summers, he's telling his boss Summers to call the 5 most powerful banking CEOs to have them get their lobbyists to lobby the repeal of Glass-Steagall because the banks wanted to get into derivatives trading. Palast even calls them banksters. The Bankster Thieves get their stooge Barney Frank in the U.S. House of Representatives Finance Committee to lead the charge to get Glass-Steagall repealed because they intended to sell all sorts of these derivatives to the governments around the world. A collateral debt obligation is a pool of mortgages that was packaged by the Bankster Thieves on Wall Street and fraudulently marketed as being very good quality AAA. As a result of the banking deregulation, the Bankster Thieves were able to start trading derivatives, which includes selling CDOs, which were packages of mortgages, many of them subprime, some of them did not exist. Under Clinton administration, they started to do 100% financing in home mortgages. Because of the easy qualification, many people who were otherwise unqualified were able to get a mortgage. It caused a bidding war on real estate with subprime mortgages. Okay? In other words, is he warm? He's qualified. Does he breathe? He's qualified. Real estate prices became inflated to the point that some market prices were 200% and 300% more of what the prices are today. And investors around the world bought CDOs marketed by the Bankster Thieves, municipal corporations, mutual funds, other investors. The Bankster Thieves leveraged their own assets by 30 times, and that's what Lehman Brothers, that what they even said when they were after they went bankrupt in front of Congress. Oh, and here's another advertisement, a little interlude. Other videos, Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3. Highly recommend these videos if you want to learn more about this stuff. Churchianity series, bankrupt corporate so-called governments, bar members 1, 2, and 3. Do it yourself, how not to volunteer for the selective service in the draft. Martial laws here, do it yourself, no income tax. Do it yourself, no sales tax. Do it yourself, traffic stop 1 and 2. Do it yourself, free mail 1 and 2, and do it yourself, kangaroo courts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Recently, there were pirates in Somalia that were assaulting shipping off the coast of Somalia. These pirates were captured by the U.S. Navy and brought back to New York for trial. It came out in the trial that these pirates were owned and operated by the Bankster Thieves, okay? Goldman Sachs. And this is actually a website called the Daily Cost. It's from 2010, the 28th of April. And let's get in closer. Borowitz reports Somali pirates, a subsidiary of Goldman Sachs. And it says down there, the highlighted area says 11 indicted Somali pirates dropped a bombshell in a U.S. court today, revealing their entire piracy operation is a subsidiary of banking giant Goldman Sachs. And you know, piracy is a felony for life in prison, but I don't remember seeing any Goldman Sachs even being put on trial over this. Anyways, Borowitz says the pirates received bonuses last year amounting to $48 million paid in cash in doubloons. They merged with Goldman in 2008 because of more lax regulation of Bankster Thieves. And what a scam. Isn't that a scam? And this was 5/9/2013 when it was printed. So that's May the 9th of 2013. And this is the Huffington Report, Huffington Post, and it talks about the same thing. Somali pirates say they are a subsidiary of Goldman Sachs. At Norfolk, Virginia, 11 indicted Somali pirates dropped a bombshell in a U.S. court today, revealing that their entire piracy operation is a subsidiary of banking giant Goldman Sachs. There was an audible gasp in court when the leader of the pirates announced, "We're doing God's work. We work for Lloyd Blankfein." The pirate, who said he earned a bonus of $48 million in doubloons last year, elaborated on the nature of the Somalis' work for Goldman, explaining that the pirates forcibly attacked ships that Goldman had already shorted. Talk about bankster thieves. I mean, you don't think they're doing this somewhere else? Hello? We're functioning as investment bankers, only every day was casual Friday, the pirate said. The pirate acknowledged that they merged their operations with Goldman in late 2008 to take advantage of the more relaxed regulations governing bankers as opposed to pirates, plus to get our share of the bailout money. Yeah, right. So then they're basically justifying billions of dollars that they're stealing from the Congress. In the aftermath of the shocking revelations, government prosecutors are scrambling to see if they still had a case against the Somali pirates, who would now be treated as bankers in the eyes of the law. There are lots of laws that could bring down these guys down if they were, in fact, pirates, one government source said. But if they're bankers, our hands are tied. What a scam! That's the Bankster Thieves. And then there's the Libor, okay, the Libor scam. Libor is an acronym for London Interbank Offered Rate, which is an interest rate that's used to determine interest rates. It underpins $350 trillion, that's T with a trillion, dollars in derivatives. Traders have admitted that Libor manipulation has been common since 1991. And the Libor scandal, it's on Wikipedia. Libor underpins approximately $350 trillion in derivatives. Because Libor is used in U.S. derivatives market, an attempt to manipulate Libor is an attempt to manipulate U.S. derivatives markets and thus a violation of American law. Since mortgages, student loans, financial derivatives, and other financial products often rely on Libor as a reference rate, the manipulation of submissions used to calculate those rates can have significant negative effects on consumers and financial markets worldwide. On 27 July 2012, the Financial Times published an article by a former trader which stated that Libor manipulation has been common since at least 1991. And this is found at Wikipedia. Go look it up. And this is First, Britain pleads guilty to Libor rigging, and this is Thursday, the 21st of August, 2014. And so think about it. This was back in let's see here, 2012. Okay, and so it's for 2 years. There's actually 2 or 3 scandals where this has come out. But anyways, this particular article is 21st of August, 2014. First, Britain pleads guilty to Libor rigging, and so there was a Libor scandal exposed in 2008 and again in 2014, and it has admittedly been going on since at least the early 1990s. Because of the Libor scandals, interest rates of municipal corporations all over the world have been going up, Former Assistant Secretary of Housing under George Bush Sr. was Catherine Austin Fitz. And she says that many mortgages sold in collateralized debt obligations were for houses that did not exist. She tried to put a stop to it, and she was removed. These fraudulent, fictitious mortgages were included in CDOs that were sold to investors around the world that were fraudulently related AAA by the bankster-owned and operated rating agencies. What a scam! When the bubble burst in 2008, many corporations went out of business or laid off workers. Some banksters went bankrupt, like Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch and AIG, etc. Iceland went bankrupt. Greece has gone into receivership. Spain is on the brink of bankruptcy. And many American states are on the brink of bankruptcy. Because of these derivatives and the Libor scandal and the subprime crisis orchestrated by the Bankster Thieves, debt servicing costs have gone up. Many companies have gone out of business, causing unemployment and also reducing tax revenue for municipal corporations. And municipal corporations' costs are up and revenues are down, causing a scramble for money and bankruptcies. This is bankrupt governments, a little map showing bankrupt governments across the country, and this was in 2014. So who knows what it is now? And look at them all. Since 2010, there have been 38 municipal governments that declared bankruptcy. A bankruptcy is a coup d'etat for a municipal government because the creditors become the new owners. And the creditors are the Bankster Thieves, as found in Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments video and Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3 video. A bankruptcy creates an emergency and justifies martial law rule, as found in the We Are Under Martial Law Rule video. Or actually, I changed the name. It's called Martial Laws here. And so when you deposit money into your bank account, the money becomes the property of the bank, and you have a contract that says they have to give it back. Therefore, it's an unsecured debt to the bank. When the same bank sells a CDO, it's supposed to be collateralized by real estate. A CDO has a higher priority than a bank deposit in the event of a bankruptcy. And the banksters, the subprime crisis equals scam equals bankruptcy, because that's what they're all going to. The banksters are thieves. The U.S. Congress is bought and paid for by the Bankster Thieves. All so-called courts are bought and paid for by the Bankster Thieves. They operate exclusively under the Uniform Commercial Code, which is the UN, under the treaty power, and they have no authority to impose the treating power internally. This is all coming from the United Nations through several treaties that are applied unconstitutionally. See the No Treaty Power Inside USA or any other country video. The so-called subprime crisis was orchestrated by Satanist thieves in both parties, as well as the Bankster Thieves and the New World Order crowd. It was all made possible by the United Nations and the Roman cult. Negotiable instrument law is a subset of Roman law, which is a subset of canon law, which goes to the Roman cult. The purpose of the so-called subprime crisis was to set up the next bankruptcy, which is effectively a coup d'etat. Any corporation goes bankrupt, it becomes the property of the creditors. And so they go and orchestrate this bankruptcy so the creditors, who happen to be the Bankster Thieves, seize it. There are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword and the other is by debt. And that's John Adams in 1826. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. I have YouTube videos that are videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for a donation. And this last paragraph is for all the Satanist order follower revenue officers operating in their private capacity under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. Donations to support this work are appreciated, but these revenue officers can put their privileges and benefits up their rectal orifice. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept their commercial paper IOUs, Federal Reserve notes, PayPal gifts, checks, money orders, etc. Send me an email for particulars. My blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email is engineerwin@yahoo. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living, and now Sovereignty International. Both 2 profiles. My Facebook community page, I deleted it because of censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group, Sovereignty International, is being deleted. You know, it's got like about 14,000 members, and so it's a bit of a hassle to have to ban everybody off of that group. But that's what you have to do if you want to hurt Facebook, and they deserve it. Yahoo private group is called Administering Your Public Servants, and the Google private group is called Administering Your Public Servants. I hope you get something out of this. I hope you become aware of these bankster thieves, and this so-called subprime crisis was nothing more than a scam by these bankster thieves. And I hope you have a real nice day.